Hey guys.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Leese here with another episode of the Surf and Sales Podcast. I'm joined by my good friend Richard Harris, and today we're talking to Sam Dunning, co-owner and sales director at WebChoice from across the pond in the UK. So we're excited to get together with him and learn more about him and get some good takes on sales and skills to be successful out there. So thanks for joining us, Sam.
Hey guys, thanks very much for having me on. It's good to finally get on the show, and I'm looking forward to chatting through with you guys.
Yeah. Have you recovered from the beatdown that we gave you in the transatlantic takedown?
Oh man, I know. You've already kind of chatted it through with Costas when he came on the show, but
Well,
you guys,
he's more sensitive. He's more sensitive than you are, so I can be very careful with picking on him. But you, I feel like
I can take it. Yeah. It's water on the duck's back for me. But no, it was really well done. I mean, from execution, it was a really fun event. Daryl hosted it really well. You and Costas did a great job of making it happen. Then we got some really good engagement. I mean, there's way more signups than I ever expected. It was just a shame that the majority share of audience were in the US, so it was always going to happen.
So to tell everybody, about your role at WebChoice, like, what do you sell,
Sure.
And what's the sales cycle like, and the space that you're in, and where you're located, and things like that.
Sure thing. So WebChoice is basically a digital marketing company. So we help businesses get results via digital. So whether that's increasing their leads, increasing their brand positioning, increasing their sales via websites that actually convert visitors into customers or into leads. We help them get to the top of Google organic search with SEO. So we help them drive more quality traffic to the website. We help them convert it with an effective website. We help them with custom. We do a lot of custom builds, like big web projects, big app projects. So it's all about improving brand awareness, improving positioning, improving leads and sales. So that's what we do. And where we're based, we're in the southwest of the UK, county of Somerset. It's actually a bank holiday today, so I've just been chilling in the garden with my my girlfriend, doing a bit of reading. Did a bit of work this morning, and then just been chilling and doing some reading. And my role is essentially, I'm a sales guy here, so I look after all the new relationships, get projects kicked off. I do quite a lot of account management as well, because we're quite a compact and agile company. So end to end, in terms of sales cycle, we're not enterprise level, so it's a mix really of kind of transactional deals through to projects, typically anywhere from roughly 2K, so 2K GBP up to 100K plus, something like that. So some of our deals are really quick and can be closed within a few weeks. Some of our deals take a few months to close. So that's why it's quite exciting really. So it's not always a case of we have to wait months and months to get a deal in. Sometimes it can be quite fast.
Are you one of those organizations who are at the moment seeing an increase in business because of what's happening in the COVID world, and that people are they're trying to get smarter and better in things, or is it sort of staying the same for you? Like as you said, you're a compact business, which means it can really affect you one way or the other.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're fortunate that at the moment people are thinking that they need to move into digital, because a lot of, especially direct consumer businesses, have been hit hard by this pandemic. So they're thinking, oh, we can't sell face to face now. We need to move into digital. So we are seeing an increase. Well, we saw an increase over the last few weeks in our inbound inquiries, which is good. But on the flip side, people are still really scared to spend money, man. So last month was tough in terms of sales. We still just about hit our target, but it's hard work getting people to spend. I mean, people can see the value. It's just they're saying, look, we can see the value, Sam. We know this product is going to give us an ROI that's going to help our business, but it's just getting them over the finish line. I'm sure a lot of businesses were in the same boat, that they were saying, look, I'm ready to buy, but after the pandemic, after things clear up. So that was a common objection.
Something that we haven't touched on much in the show is the difference in approach between an inbound lead versus outbounding. So maybe you can talk through some of the differences in your strategy and tactic and approach with inbounds versus cold outreach.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm fortunate these days that I don't have to do a heck of a lot of cold outreach. Although I still do some. I prospect most days, but a lot of work because of our SEO positioning, because of LinkedIn and various other tools. We get a lot of inbound leads. So are you talking through kind of how we attack inbound leads, how we deal with them?
And just the messaging and tone. I mean, one of the things that I've always found is that once salespeople get an inbound lead, they sort of oftentimes make the assumption that the prospect, knows everything already, recognizes that they have this pain and knows why they need to fix it, and it's like basically Ready to buy. So the salesperson skips over all of the steps. Steps one would take, and just goes right to pitching the product and trying to close the deal. And so I'm curious what kind of tactical approach you have.
I think the worst assumption you can make is that an inbound lead is ready to buy. So I think there's a few kind of best practices that I'd say in terms of dealing with an inbound lead. Number one is respond to it as soon as you possibly can. So if you can, allow your sales reps or whoever's responsible for certain leads to get leads linked up. So if it's coming from a form, so a lot of our leads and a lot of our customer leads come from form fields, or some are direct emails or some are calls. But a lot of the time the leads are coming after working hours. So make sure your smartphone's linked up to get that email straight away, because you want to be responding to that lead within 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes max. And you can say, look, thanks very much for getting in touch. We'd love to chat this through. Let's book in a call if it comes in at night time tomorrow. So you can schedule in that call for the next day. And that way you're striking while the iron's hot. I mean, I've heard from organizations that haven't passed inbound leads to their reps for days. It's like, what the heck's going on? These are people who want to do business with you. Strike while the iron's hot, man, for God's sake. So that's the first thing. And then once you've booked in a call with them, or they might say that they only want to discuss on email. They might not leave a number. So you might have to talk through. So that, like you said, Scott, the main thing is not to assume they're going to buy. You need to still put them through discovery. So first case is really discovery. Doesn't matter if that's Skype, Zoom, email, call, whatever. You need to understand about their business. So Josh Braun, I was actually listening to on the Salesman podcast the other day. He asked a good question. It was, what motivated you to get in touch with us? So that's a good question that I've started using, actually. So the first thing, what's motivated you to get in touch with? Not why, but what was the actual emotion you felt? So it might have been, in our case, for example, our website stopped producing us leads. We haven't had a lead for our site for the last month, or something like that, which is going to be relevant for a lot of companies that have websites. So find out why they've got in touch, and then start asking questions around that. Like, okay, interesting. How long has that been going on? And they might say it's been going on for a month, 2 months, so on. Right, okay. So how much is a lead worth to you? And they'll tell you. So learn more about their deal sizes, about their projects, about what they get involved in. Find out why it's an issue. So they're saying, look, we're having to make more cold outreach and do X, Y, Z because we're not getting the inbound leads in. So ask questions around it, and also find out. So if it was to do with a lead issue on their website, you might say, what other marketing channels are you doing? We're doing Facebook ads, doing Google AdWords, blah, blah, blah. So find out what they're doing around it, find out the results they're getting from there, and then just essentially work out the impact of what this problem is. So in this case, they're not getting the leads they want. So that's the main impact. And then you want to drive on that. And essentially the point is to find out if it's worth working with them or not. It might be that they haven't got a problem that's big enough that you can fix, or it might be that they don't have the budget to work with you. So you want to ask, once you've kind of found out if there is an issue, you want to drive to, okay, when do you want to get this done? When do you want to get it sorted out? What's your time frame? So it might be, we're not that bothered, or this is pretty important, we need to sort it out kind of ASAP. Okay, so based upon everything that we've discussed, all these issues, timeframes, so on and so forth, what are you looking to invest to get this addressed? Sometimes they might not always tell you. So more than often, customers aren't going to tell you what they want to spend. They're like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I was hoping you could help us. And that's when you've got to use your own techniques. So bracketing, I found, works quite well. So you could say, often a customer like this for a basic solution spends between, I don't know, 2 to 10K, or if they want more of an advanced solution, it might be between 10 and 20K. Which of these, if any, do you think would work for yourself? And then just shut up and let them talk. So those kind of open-ended questions, finding out if they're actually got an issue that you can fix, finding out if they've got budget, finding out timeframes, also making sure you understand who's involved in the process. So good, rather than just saying who's the decision maker, you can ask questions like, as well as yourself, John, who's involved in this process or who helps makes decisions of this nature in your organization. It could be that you're dealing with a small company and they're the director, and then it might just be them. Or it could be that they're a marketing manager and then they've got to deal with their CEO, the head of IT, and so on. So you want to know.
Right.
You don't.
Stop. Too long of an answer, Sam. All right. Like, where was this answer when we were doing the USA UK takedown? Like this is what you needed. Good answer.
Too high pressure, man.
So sorry to interrupt, but not really.
No worries.
Question for you. I think there's something else that we don't talk about a lot here too, and I love that. By the way, that is a great answer. Do you, for your business, how much of your business is, let's call it Europe versus USA? Right.
A lot.
Do you have a distinction between the two?
Yeah. Most of our business is UK based. So
Okay.
we do, because of the SEO positionings and some of our digital marketing efforts, we do get overseas inquiries. So we do get maybe a couple international inquiries, maybe US or a few other countries.
So what do you, so my real question then is, I'm curious, and be biased, be polite. What's the difference between selling to a UK organization and a US organization? Let's say I said, Sam, quit your company, come start mine. I'm going to pay you $1 million just to move to the United States, but I want you to tackle the UK market, because I think people
Right.
are, or the European market, and I know each country can be different. What do you think are some things that are just innate because you live on that side of the world that we just don't get it? Like, what would be advice if I were saying, hey, I want to penetrate that market? What kind of advice would you be giving me? Not even in an SEO, SEM world, just like, hey, if you're going to approach these customers, these are the kinds of ways you need to think about talking to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because, like I said, I do sell to the US. So I've got a little bit of experience with that, but majority of our customers are UK. I would say, from what I've heard, I mean, don't take this as an offensive way, but I'd say UK guys are quite to the point. So I'd say don't beat around the bush. Don't kind of as little fluff as possible. So kind of especially if you're doing discovery calls or you're doing presentations.
So what's an example of that? Like, what's an example that you think, and maybe you've been on it from a customer side where you're like, okay, Richard, you American SDR, get with it.
Yeah. I think it's when sales guys try to be your friend and they start trying to strike up a conversation with you about things that you don't really care about. It's like, how's it going, man? Like, the weather's really nice out, isn't it? Like, I'm going to take my kids out and do all this stuff. It's like, yeah, that's all good and well, but I don't really care. I just want to know how you can help me, if you can help me, and how you're going to either make my business perform better or.
Let's say you didn't know Scott and you had your first call. Scott was calling you, and you get on this Zoom call with him, and you, aside from only your personal preferences, and you see this Liverpool thing behind him.
That would be a good thing because I support Liverpool.
Okay.
And he knows that.
Automatic rapport builder, right?
Exactly. Instant.
But do you think of, this guy, I wonder if he changes that out to the Dallas Cowboys when he's talking to someone in Texas, or do you, like, is that fake rapport building in your mind? Like, I'm curious what that, or is it like, no, that's cool, like, I don't even really care. I'm trying to distinguish between how do we build
I think
without fluff,
but
also draw a connection.
It's a really good question. I mean, rapport building for me has always been one of those difficult points because I'm a bit of an introvert. So I'm not someone who's massively loud and someone who kind of talks about loads of stuff that's not really relevant to what I'm selling or how I can help customers. So yeah, obviously because I'm a Liverpool fan, if I saw the scarf hung up on Scott's wall, I'd say, hey man, how's it going? Great to see a Liverpool fan. Like, they did really well this season. They're going to win the league and so on and so forth. And we could talk about players and we could talk for ages. But if I didn't know that, I mean, one question that I sometimes ask is kind of whereabouts. Hey man, or hey X, hey John, appreciate you getting in touch with us. Excited to talk about if and how we can help you today. Out of curiosity, whereabouts in the world are you based? Just find out. That was something I heard on a podcast a while ago. It's not too bad. Just find out whereabouts in the world they are. Maybe talk for a minute about where they're based, about what there is to do there, and something like that. I would say keep it brief. I don't know what you guys think. If you guys like to talk about rapport or try and build rapport for 5 minutes or something like that. I don't spend too much time on it. I'd rather cut to the chase, and it's never been an issue for me.
So I'm gonna answer for Scott, just because I know he's got a bad cough. And then first I'll answer for me. I'm like you, Sam. I want to get straight to the point. Hey, Sam, look, hey, thanks for making time today. I've got us down for 30 minutes. I sort of run through my respect contract and get into it. If I know Scott well as I think I know him, he waits to see how the other person handles it. And then he will, if they start to do, hey, how you doing? He'll do, hey, how you doing? If they want to start jumping into something, he'll jump into it. So Scott's much more sort of, he's almost watching the conversation between himself and someone else as a third party entity to figure out which maneuver this little chess piece of himself needs to move. Scott, did I get that right? Or
that's 100% right.
Yeah.
I very much don't want to make the first move. And I feel like I get an advantage once I see how somebody, starts the conversation or is behaving and interacting and whatnot. And I'm like, boom, now I know exactly how to match and mirror this particular person. So that's like exactly me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it also depends on whether it's your first call with them. So if it was like a discovery call, or if it was perhaps a demo or a presentation where you've already built the rapport, so you've got some common ground that you could start the conversation off with, or whether it's a follow-up call and so on. So it depends on how far along the sales process you are. And like you say, Scott, that's a good thing that you've just recommended there, like in terms of kind of mirroring the prospect. And
I think it's a good tactic too for people who are a little more introverted and a little more, direct. I don't have like this big agenda where I'm going to build in 5 minutes of rapport building into my, conversations and what have you. So,
yeah.
I'm much more like you, I think, in that regard. And I've found that just kind of holding back just a little bit and seeing how the other person moves first is a good strategy for me. So
cool.
Yeah.
Anything else, Sam? So that was a really good tactic.
Back to discovery, is this? Back to inbound lead calls.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's just laying down so you understand exactly where the inbound lead's at. Because like we said, not every inbound lead is going to be qualified to work with you, or you might not be qualified to work with them. So you need to understand the pain's big enough that they actually want to sort it out. They want to fix it. You need to understand when they want to do it, if it's even on their radar to do soon, or if it's something that they don't want to do for another 6-12 months. If they've got budget, so if they've actually got the money to get it done, who's involved in the process, if it's just them or if there's other decision makers. And then once you've nailed down everything, you're entirely comfortable. You understand their organization, you understand their deal size, you understand sales cycle, you understand who's involved in the process, if they've got money, if they've got budget, if they've got time frame, then you book a next step if they're a good fit.
So I'm curious, like where did you learn all of this stuff? Like maybe you can take us to back to the beginning, like Sam's origin story. Like, have you always been a salesperson? Were you entrepreneurial as a kid? Were your parents in sales? Like, when did you start studying all this stuff? And
oh no. I was much like many people. I kind of fell into sales. So I mean,
yeah.
I can go through the kind of.
What were you doing before?
So I can go through the short version of it. Basically. Sure. Basically, when I was a kid, when I was like 17, 18, I used to sit at home and play after I finished college, which I think is high school for US. I'm not sure. Maybe school. Anyway, I finished college. I was 17, 18. And I used to just basically play video games all day, every day. Didn't have a job. Just played it all day, every day. And Mum was like, Sam, you need to get a job. You can't play video games all day. And I was like, really? It's pretty fun, though. It's pretty damn fun. And I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. Because at the time, all I really cared about was playing video games and going out drinking with my friends. So it was pretty laid back attitude. And so I handed in my CV to a few places in town. Got a job at a shop called Jessup's, which basically sells camera equipment. So retail store in town selling like cameras and stuff like that. I hated it.
Was that like your first experience with sales, like retail selling of cameras?
That was my very first experience of sales.
And you hated it.
I hated it, man. I hated going up to the public, and basically there was no real training like many sales jobs. So it was just like, here's our cameras. We'll give you half an hour's training on some of the cameras and the display cabinets. Now you've got to go up to people. You've got to say, hi, can I help you? And obviously when you say to someone, hi, can I help you? No, I'm fine. I'm just looking, or I'm just browsing, is the immediate reaction that we all know. And that's why only bad sales reps say it.
That's the automatic response, right?
Yeah. Exactly. There's an automatic response. You put up your shield, and that's what you say. And then, yeah, then we got a really bad manager in. She kind of really pissed me off. And I just realized I didn't like face-to-face retail. And there was no rewards, man. Like, it's not like other types of sale. There was no commission. It was just, you had a really low basic salary. You had to do all this work to get a sale. Then you had to get to sell the camera. Then you had to upsell them things for the camera, like memory cards, cases, insurance, all these things you had to do and bolt on. But there's no incentive. There was no targets. There was nothing. I was like, oh, this is terrible. And my cousin, Tom, who's one of the co-owners at WebChoice now, he basically said, look, there's a job going at this place called WebChoice. Do you fancy it? So I went for an interview a day later after he told me, and the owner at the time, Felix, had a half an hour interview, basically said, do you want to start? I said, yes, just left my job, didn't tell them, just walked out. And like, I hated it that much. And yeah, started at WebChoice. So I didn't have a clue about much apart from they sold websites. Managed to do a sale on my first day, which was, at the time, WebChoice used to buy leads. So they used to buy companies through this lead generation site where 3 people would say they needed a quote for a website or a digital marketing project, and they'd feed these 3 leads for free to you. You pay like £30 for a lead. I just called the first one up and managed to sell them a website. Didn't have a clue what the heck I was doing. I basically just said yes to everything.
It was all downhill after that.
It was all downhill after that.
A perfect record. And then you should have just walked away right then.
I should have just done it.
Now you're the co-owner. Was that yesterday? Now you're the co-owner? That was yesterday?
Co-owner. No, I've been co-owner for not long, about a month. But there's some bits that happen in between that. I've actually left and come back to WebChoice, I think 4 times.
Really?
So
wow.
Yeah, I think
you don't look old enough to have left and come back 4 times.
You wouldn't think so, would you? 29 now, nearly 30. But yeah, left and come back 4 times. So I worked there for a bit, then got bored because at the time there wasn't much structure. Went to sell ink cartridges over the phone in a call center because my friend said there was a job going there, and it was at the time quite a good wage, and I was probably only about 21. So that was good experience because I was used to quite slow sales cycles, selling websites, something like that. Whereas this was inkjets, selling over the phone in a call center, busy, lots going on, and you're just on a dialer. So you're literally straight into past customers. Like, hi, this is Sam at Inkjets and Toners. You bought from us a while ago. We've got a deal going on in Inkjet.
Still remembers the pitch, Richard. We all have one of those jobs where you still remember the sales pitch, right?
Exactly.
I know exactly which one I'm thinking of in the podcast. Yeah.
So it was good fun for a while. I mean, it was cool because it gave me an experience of actually having targets. So you had a board up there with live sales. So as soon as you sold something, it was up on the board, and you could. The first 2 or 3 days I was top of sales. Reason being, I found it easy because I was used to slow sales cycles. I could sell people in one call. I was loving it. I was like, this has never been so easy. So I was closing like these really small sales, like £100, £50. The target was only like £300 a day because the ink cartridges were only £5 to £10 each. But no, it's good fun for a while. And after a while, it kind of grinded on me again. There wasn't too much incentive. So I left that, went back to WebChoice for a little bit.
At what point though did you really lock in and decide like sales is going to be my career and my passion?
Okay. So yeah, let's cut to the chase. So did that a few times. I even almost joined the army for a while, which I didn't do in the end. Went to a company called Mighty Marketing Group, which was a startup marketing agency, and the guy there I'd known for a while. Anyway, he did something really good that no one had ever really done with me. After a couple of days in the organization, he said, look, Sam, why are you here? I said, well, to sell, really. That's why you've employed me, to sell stuff. No, he said, what do you actually want to achieve out of this in terms of what are your personal goals? And that was something no one had ever asked me. So I said, look, I want to get a mortgage. I want to get a house for myself and my girlfriend. I also want to be able to go on a couple of decent holidays a year. And that's pretty much it really, and have enough money to be able to live comfortably. So he said, look, we'll set a target for you. Within 6 months, you're going to have enough money to put a deposit down to get a house within working for this company. So with that company, the first couple months were bloody hard. Literally, I was cold calling like crazy. I was at my desk, like the other guys were going for lunch and stuff like that. I was like, well, I can't really afford it. I didn't have much money at the time. So I was just cold calling. I'd leave my desk and I was just sweating from all these cold calls that I was making. And I was like, bloody hell. But in the end, it was worth it because I built up some pipeline. Anyway, he said 6 months to would get you the house. I think I did it within 3 or 4 months. I had enough to put down a deposit to get my first house.
So, when you're in that grind, like for people who are listening, what do you remember about that really helped you stay super motivated? Was it that, hey, your boss just sat down and had a conversation with you, acknowledged what you want, and helped you lay out this plan, and you're like, I'm sticking to this because I want the mortgage?
Yep.
Was it, I'm so competitive, I hate losing? It can be a combination of things, but what really sort of pushed you to push through? Because you said it was really hard in the beginning. You were sweating.
Yeah, literally, I was sweating.
Yeah.
It's a combination of those things, really, Richard. I think at the time, necessity is the mother of invention, is a good saying. So when you need something, you'll pretty much do anything you can to get it. So at the time, I didn't have much money at all. So I knew that I literally had to pick up the phone to generate deals, to generate pipeline, generate leads, and then go on to close opportunities.
Where did that survival mentality come from in your life, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question, really. In terms of that, I can't really tell you exactly how it came into my mind. I just knew at the time, because we were a startup, we didn't have inbound leads. We just put out a website and we started to do SEO. So 6 months later, yes, that built inbound leads. But I knew the only way I was going to get pipeline was cold outreach. And so basically, I just hit the phone.
There's something deeper in you. There's something about, I don't want to fail. I'll give something a shot until it tells me I shouldn't, and until I can, not until it tells you shouldn't, but until you go, wait a minute, I bet there's a better opportunity somewhere, right?
Sure.
Like, were you a competitive kid growing up? Were your parents a little tough, a lot of tough love? Like,
yeah, I mean, my parents have always been pretty relaxed. Like, my mum's a nurse, my dad was a builder. So they'd never massively competitive and things like that. In terms of sport, I am competitive. So I play football, I go to the gym, do a lot of sports. So I'm very competitive in that sense. I hate losing. So I don't like giving up. So I guess that mentality kicked in. And that's probably something that's quite a good trait to have when you're in sales, because as you guys know, a lot of it is quite a grind.
Certainly important, I think, for all of us who are in sales. I'm struggling to think of any strong salespeople that I know who don't have those kind of traits.
There's a difference, because it's interesting, and I think Scott might say this about me, is I'm somewhat competitive, but not really. But I hate giving up. I hate letting something beat me in that competitive spirit. Like, psychologically, I hate that, right? So I think those are really good traits. So that's sort of where you came into this. Now I want to ask you a little bit about business and life. What have been some of your greatest failures that you've learned the most from? Right? We've all had them, right? We've all screwed up something, right? Is there something that you could pinpoint to go, God, maybe I hired this person and they were, thought they were it and they aren't? Or give us your, give us your biggest fuck up.
There was one I did the other day, actually, that I actually said about this on a podcast I did the other day, but I'm going to bring it up again because it's quite good.
Great.
And it makes sense. So essentially, it was not following a sales process. So this wasn't actually that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And what happened was, it had been a really long day. So it was probably 5:30 or 6 p.m. So it was the end of the working day. And I had an inbound lead on LinkedIn. And he basically wanted help with a digital marketing project. So I called him, or he called me. I can't remember which way it was, but I was really tired. And I was like, I I've not really got much motivation. I'm quite hungry. I probably wanted to go to the gym to burn off some steam. Anyway, I called him, he called me. We started a conversation, and he told me a little bit about what he wanted, and I was quite abrupt. I said, look, that's fine. If you want our help, it's going to be X price. Is that going to be an issue? I basically cut straight to the chase, and the customer was like, yeah, okay, sounds okay. Send me an email and we can pick up in a week's time. And I just kind of left it there, sent him an email, I think, with a quote, and then just headed off to the gym, and forgot about it for a few days, followed up with him maybe a week's time. And he said, yeah, I've gone with another company for the job. I said, no worries, keep in touch for any future requirements, and take care, whatever, something like that. Okay, thought no more of it. And then I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, the same guy reaches out to me on LinkedIn, and he says, Sam, let me be up front. When we spoke before, you were very abrupt. And to be honest, I didn't really like the way you spoke to me. And
good feedback. That's good feedback that he
I was like,
gave you.
Fair enough. Yeah. It sounds like I was. And he said, but I've been following you on LinkedIn for the last few months, and I really like the content you put out. And it seems like you are actually very passionate about what you do, helping businesses, and you actually care about the clients you work with.
This is a case where Sam's content and his brand trumped his actual salesmanship.
I basically Daniel Disney's that thing, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
And Dan's probably, if he's going to listen to this, he's like, no, Sam, no. Anyway, yeah, what I did was I didn't really follow a sales process on the first call. That was a lesson that I learned. So I just kind of cut to the chase. I thought that the guy didn't have money, and I didn't qualify properly.
Now you're contradicting what you said like 20 minutes ago of like, hey, when you sell in the UK or Europe, just cut to the chase. Just get to the point. Don't build rapport. Meanwhile, now you're sort of giving the yin and yang of this. So it's a fascinating lesson. I appreciate you sharing that. That's really cool.
It's getting the balance, really. It's getting the balance right. Asking the right questions, not too many. And but I was too brief. Anyway, it worked out okay for me because he came back, thankfully. And we're going to do some business now, but that's just basically says stick to a sales strategy or a sales process rather, even if you are tired and even if you don't feel like doing it.
Did you tell him that since he didn't buy you the first time, you're going to raise the rates 20%?
Oh, of course, that comes naturally.
You played the long tail on this one, is what you did. You're like, this guy will be back. He'll be back when he can believe.
We're connected on LinkedIn. It'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll keep coming after me.
If only it was always that easy.
By the way, so talking about your brand, because we talk about this a lot. You do have an amazing brand on LinkedIn, and you built that up. When did you start focusing on that? When did you realize, hey, as an individual, there's something I can offer that will help in the long run, right? When did you start doing that kind of stuff?
LinkedIn itself a few years ago. But I wasn't doing it very well back then. So I think just before we get to that as well, one question that I didn't answer properly is before we get to, you asked something about how did you get good at sales and how did you learn a sales process and how did you learn to address inbound leads properly? I put a lot of that down to Sandler. So I'm a big fan of Sandler's You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. One of the best books that I recommend anyone picks up. Very, very good. Anyway, back to the point. LinkedIn. I've been on there for years, like many, but I was just using it as a tool to promote my products, really. So for years, I was just kind of saying, look, we do this, putting out products.
So when did you flip the switch, though? When did you realize it's not about the product, it's about adding value?
Sure. Probably about maybe 2 years ago, after I started kind of following people like Dan Disney and other guys that are doing well on social and realizing that, it was about more so giving value. So actually telling stories. So essentially wrapping things up in stories.
Do you think it's becoming easier to learn from practitioners in different parts of the world because of the popularity of LinkedIn? So you've been using LinkedIn for a couple of years now, you say, right? But we only just met you a couple months ago.
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like my network is growing globally, right? And expanding beyond. And I'm wondering if you're sort of experiencing the same things. And it's, traditionally not been as easy to kind of connect with people in different parts of the of the world and so forth. Is that like a concerted effort on your part and professionals in the UK to like go learn some stuff from American sellers, go learn some stuff from Southeast Asia and Australian sellers, or is it just like organically happening and you just find people whose content you gel with, and God knows how that happens?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever thought I'm going to specifically try and learn from salespeople that are in different countries. However, I'm always open to learning new things. So guys like, Dan Disney, Dale Dupree, these kind of names that are putting out content that's getting massive engagement, I'm always open to learning. Not just them though, anyone. I think that's an important lesson, really. Be open to learning from anyone, because everyone's got useful stuff to share. Some of it's BS, but some of it's actually stuff you can learn from. In terms of overseas, a lot of leads that I get are from overseas now, because like you say, the power of LinkedIn is huge. So a lot of leads we get for our own projects are from there as well. So conversations have started. I mean, I only made a concerted effort to post daily the start of this year. So only since December have I made a conscious effort to actually put out a post daily. Before then, I was just doing it maybe once or twice a week.
What do you think the advantages are of posting daily as opposed to, say, 2 or 3 times a week or 3 or 4 times a week? I don't post every single day. I'm not saying that I'm right or you're right. I'm just curious what you're finding the advantage of posting every single day is.
Sure. And I don't think there's one right answer, like you said. Yeah, I think because some people can post a couple times a week or 2 to 3 times a week and get killer engagement. They might get a post that just skyrockets, gets 100k views, 600 likes, several comments, and they might get 2 to 3 inbound inquiries direct from that post. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how much you post as long as it's getting you results. So in my case, I post, one, to build up my brand, and secondly, to build up leads. I'm not posting to get likes and comments. Whilst they're good and they kind of make you feel good at the time, I want to build up my brand. I want to share best practices, share my stories, but ultimately I want to get inbound. And I think anyone else on LinkedIn, most people on LinkedIn have got a motive, and you might as well use it as a tool. But in terms of posting, I post daily because I just like doing it, and I think it's a great way to kind of stay visible for your connections. Like you say, if you get results, ultimately, if you get results from posting 2 to 3 times a week and it's working for you and it's helping your business, then that's fine.
Well, go ahead, Richard.
The mistakes you think you've made on LinkedIn?
Yeah, mistakes. I think the old instant pitch is a mistake. So I used to kind of years ago just connect with people, then send an instant generic sales pitch.
Did it ever work?
DM.
Did it ever work?
It does. It does actually work. People say it doesn't work, but it does if you do it in huge volume. So whilst people say it doesn't, this was also
a few years ago. So
this was also a few years ago.
It might have worked a few years ago.
So we're talking volume, guys. We're not talking 1 to 2 messages. We're talking about 200 messages, 200, 300 messages, and maybe getting 1 to 2 leads. Yeah. So I wouldn't advise it because it burns out your connections, it burns bridges, and ultimately it pisses people off. So they're probably not going to want to do business with you. And you might get 1 or 2 leads, but ultimately you're leaving a trail of fire behind you. So that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I did.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So we're sort of getting towards the end of this. What can we do to help you? How can we help Sam? How can we help your organization? Anything you're passionate about, you're volunteering time for, or just straight up business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, two main things really. I'm not doing any volunteering or anything like that. Always happy to connect with people and help them if I can on LinkedIn. So feel free to add me on LinkedIn, Sam Dunning. I share a lot of posts on digital marketing and helping businesses grow. I've got a podcast, Sam's Business Growth Show. So I interview business leaders, experts around the globe.
He has his own podcast coffee mug, Richard. Where's my coffee mug? How do you
Easy on,
expect,
guys.
how do you expect
It's
me
on
to
you.
be doing this show with you, Richard? And I don't even have a coffee mug.
You won't spend money.
Well,
Like
that's
you,
fair.
like, you don't even know how much I've paid to get all the images
I
done.
retract my
and-
statement. Continue, Sam.
Thank you.
So yeah, Sam's
yeah.
Business Growth Show, the podcast. That's on the podcast channels on YouTube. Check that out. Apart from that, WebChoiceUK.com is our company, and we basically help businesses skyrocket their leads, sales, and brand positioning with results-driven SEO, digital marketing, websites, and apps. And yeah, that's me really, guys. That's the best way to get in touch. LinkedIn or the podcast or the website.
Great.
Yeah, it's been a good conversation.
Sam's. You should check out Sam's podcast. He's doing a good job of getting good guests on there, and a lot of guests.
I've invited you.
He's
Yeah. Have you been on, Scott?
What's that?
Yes.
Been on?
I have. It's not released yet, though.
It's not live yet. It's going live in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm so hurt. I'm not having anybody else on a podcast until they come on ours first. That's our new goal.
Thanks for joining us, man. It's
Thanks,
always
Sam.
good,
I appreciate
good
it,
to
man.
talk with you, and wish you the best of luck, man. You're on your way. You're doing great things. Keep it going.
Thanks, guys. Good to chat.
Cheers.